We're back with the Brother Side Podcast, episode 20. Me, Justin Pearson, you,
Alex Pearson.
I don't usually do the intros. We're here with Chris LeGrow. He is an author, Omaha police officer,
Correct.
Former Marine, kind of does it all, has been through it all by the sounds of it. Thanks for being with us, Chris.
Well, it's nice to be here.
Chris.
Yeah. Chris says he's never been on a podcast before, didn't even know what podcasts were.
Nope.
So we're hoping to really open some eyes today.
Yeah,
That's
my
the
kids
goal.
think I'm the biggest nerd.
Yeah, I doubt it.
My kids say, Dad, you need, when I do a presentation, they'll say, Dad, you need to get a PowerPoint. I said, my PowerPoint is right here. You, stop, get over here.
This is the
I
power
said, this
finger.
works just fine.
Yeah.
Then they roll their eyes.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, so usually, Chris, at the beginning, we talk about our guest's favorite drink. For you, you have the Diet Mountain Dew. I thought, hey, if you're doing your favorite pop, I'm going to get my favorite pop. I don't drink pop very often, but I do love a cold Pepsi, usually in a can, but they didn't have cans at the gas station.
Yeah, I'm a Dusky man.
Dusky.
Diet Dusky.
Started at a young age.
just started doing it, just always had one around, just sipping at it during the day when I'm at work.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
one very wonderful drink. You can always tell if something's good for you if it looks the same coming out as it did going down. So it's got to be
Never
good
heard
for
that
you.
So you, let's get into a little bit of your background. You're from a big family growing up.
Well, somewhat big family growing up. I have a big family now.
Even bigger now.
Yeah,
Yes.
now it's huge.
Yeah.
And I came from Las Vegas, where I grew up. Well, lived in Ohio for a couple years. We had a big tornado in Ohio, and then moved to Las Vegas. Was raised in Vegas, and there were four of us. My father died in '68, and mother tried to raise three kids with no skills. Amazing woman. She passed away not too long ago, but she had no skills.
Wow.
And,
What do you mean no skills?
no
Like,
skills. She was a housemaker,
Yeah.
a homemaker, stayed at home, tough Italian woman,
Sure.
could
Okay.
make anything a paddle. It didn't matter,
Yeah.
including a younger sibling.
Yeah,
She
sure.
could smack you with your little sister if you had to. So that helped us a lot. Me and my brother were a couple of big guys, and she could always put you right in your place. And she, eventually remarried, and but raised us there in Vegas, and ended up some roundabout way, ended up here in the Midwest, because in Vegas, when we watch the winters of here,
Yeah.
and we see all these cars stuck in the snow.
You're like, who would want to go there?
Who would live
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
And
Crazy
now here I
people.
am since '87. I've been here in Omaha.
What got you out of Vegas specifically?
In Vegas, I went to college. Before that, I was a missionary for a couple of years. I did that. Great experience. Worked with Cambodian refugees who survived the killing fields of Cambodia back in the 70s. So this was 1980, 82. And worked with them. Great experience. I strongly recommend any young person who's trying to get some focus in their life to do something outside and see what the world's like outside of your one route you take every day to school and back,
Right.
and your friends. And once you see that, it's just, you realize the world doesn't revolve around you, and that there's so many things out there that gives you a great appreciation for what you have.
Sure.
And that was really helpful to me. I'm so glad I did that. Matter of fact, it helped me get my grades up and everything, because I had to study every day, and so I
Right.
never had to do that.
Was that a part of your education?
And
Like,
that was I did that. It was a volunteer for my church, the
Okay.
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
And did that for, like I said, 2 years, from 19 to 21. And so those formative years there, when you could really screw up your life with decisions.
Yeah, I was close.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
both very
most
close.
people can
Yeah.
relate. And usually it's mom or dad or somebody grabbed that ear and said, no, no, no.
Right.
And they were able to set you straight and help you out. So that really helped me. I mean, I don't know how many times we just talked to kids, or, helping them reestablish, because these people didn't know what a toilet was.
Wow.
And here
It's
they
crazy.
came from tropical Cambodia to the United States in winter. They were wearing a sarong and flip-flops, and they'd never seen their breath before. They'd never been cold before. And this was in Ohio where I was
Right.
doing this.
Where it gets very cold.
And they came out, and they were just freezing. And then when they got an apartment, they'd have a whole family, and it was all kinds of extended family, because most families weren't together anymore. Their parents had been killed. They found a cousin or somebody they could live with, and they were all just put together.
Wow.
And they'd be in an apartment just shivering, all of them, because it'd be, like our winters.
Right.
Guys,
They
turn
didn't
on
know
the
what,
heat.
Yeah.
They didn't know what a thermostat was. Well, you can't turn on the heat if you don't know what the thermostat
Right,
is.
yeah.
And these were the old ones. They used to have these units underneath the windows. They were electric.
Yep.
And we'd show them how to turn it on, and we'd put their hand and tell them, because there was a language barrier. We were trying to learn
I would imagine.
Cambodian. They were trying to learn English. It was a lot of hand signs.
Yeah.
And
A lot of pointing.
yeah, a lot of.
The PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Right here.
right there.
Yeah.
And then they'd feel the heat, and then it would register, and we'd show them this is what it. So we'd come back to visit the next day. You walk in, you go. The windows are dripping.
Yeah.
And it's set as high as it can go, and they're still shivering in the wind. It's like, oh man. So it was a great experience as a young guy, and seeing how these people would treat you, even though they had nothing.
They're so thankful.
They were so thankful to be here in America, and I mean, we'd come to visit sometimes. To be honest, we used to count the dogs. Because we weren't sure what we were eating sometimes. They would make, I'd say, oh crap, where's that poodle?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, he was just right there.
Legs up and, but we'd come and visit, and their custom was very different from ours.
Sure.
When you come to visit like if you have friends, somebody come visit, you'd offer them a drink, and you sip and you talk.
Yeah.
The Cambodians is very different. They'd offer you something to eat and something to drink, but you were expected to slush it down like we would say, yeah, pig, you come over here, you drink all my stuff.
Yeah.
To them, it was a greater compliment.
Huh.
If you
To the
slammed
woman, and and you ask for more. And to ask for more is just, they want more from us. That's wonderful. They could share more, and for them to share more was a great gift to them. And it was just really, you had to adjust. It depends on whose house you're in.
Right.
But we'd eat, and you always had to eat. Some of the first few words I learned, was it's good, and you eat. I'm full. That's it. That's acceptable.
Sure. Okay.
Because if you could not find that other dog and you did not know what you're eating, the smells, some of the foods was very different.
Yeah,
So,
I would.
so good, and you eat, I'm full. And if you're full, the women especially, they would get all excited and be so excited they were able to share that with you. And it's very different from us.
Yeah.
And so it was a great experience. I mean, I'm so glad I did it. And like I said, it also helped me when I came back. I went to college, and my GPA just shot up. And, eventually met my wife and got going. And
Just change your perspective on life.
yes. And so I'd recommend that either through your church or through AmeriCorps, Peace Corps. There's all kinds of things like that. So I'd really recommend anybody, if you're young and still not sure where you want to go in life, just do something like that.
Did you have to kind of be coaxed into doing it, or you?
I did it. I wanted to.
Okay.
And I really did. I thought it was my duty to help out. And so I did, and it was a great experience. And then, like I said, I came back, got married, and then, was finishing up my schooling at UNLV in Las Vegas. And I was there during when UNLV was the powerhouse of basketball.
Oh, yeah, they were really,
There was a time.
He used to eat his towels all the time. People walk around campus with towels in their mouths. And, Final Four every year, no classes and we make the Final Four. So everybody's all excited because they were good. We knew we wouldn't have classes. So.
Yeah, what happened to that dynasty? I mean,
those dang NBA rules, I don't know. Something about
those days are over.
Yeah, they haven't really done anything since then. So, but they had a great bunch of guys.
So was it the tornado that pushed you guys to Vegas then?
Yeah, back in
1964,
65, we lived in a little town in Ohio, and it was a little town called Grafton, south of Toledo area. And this was back in the 60s. You didn't have a lot of warning when these things came through. And this was the middle of the night.
There's a tornado coming.
Yeah, it was like, hey, what's all that? Train's kind of loud because the trains were going around. And I remember bits and pieces. I was young. But I remember my mother, our house was ripped from the foundation, thrown across the street, and we were all in our house, and my whole family survived. The dog was gone. He showed up later. I don't know how it did. He knew. It's like, hey, you guys are idiots.
I'm out of here.
Bye. Catch you on the other side. But if we'd have been in our basement like most people would do, we'd have been killed because the basement was just thrashed. Really? Just because it ripped it up, all the wood and everything flying around. And I remember I was on my father's back. We ran out, and I just remember the noise. It was so, I can't describe it. Oh, it's so overwhelming. You thought that's all there was. It was almost, and I remember looking back, and I remember seeing what I thought were light balls going around real fast. and found out it was either it hit a power line, and the power lines were going around, the electricity was still, or static electricity. I didn't know that. You'd think, well, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see it, yeah.
And so you'd hear about those kind of things, but I remember I looked back and it was right there. As my dad, we found out later when he jumped out of our house, the house across the street, we missed by 4 feet, and you'll see that in the picture. My father actually thought the house across the street had blown over to our side. That's how
disoriented you guys were.
Completely disoriented, and they didn't know what had happened, and they were all. My mother told me that the windows had all just got sucked out, and we all, from the pressure, fell to the ground. And from then on, you didn't know what happened, and so I remember being in someone's basement. People were crying. I had a big cut on my leg, but we all made it somehow. And
About how old were you?
about 3 or 4, right in there. And I just, like I said, remember bits and pieces,
Yeah.
but something like that, you see it right there, it makes an impression. And
That's amazing.
yeah, it was. I look back now and I go, wow, I didn't know anything about it then. The newspapers came, they took pictures of our family. The family survives, and they said this back then, which I guess was pretty cool, an aerial shot, and it had and I think we have a picture of that here. It had our house, and it had these little dots. Like, was here, is here.
Jeez.
So my father worked for Sears and Roebuck, Sears, and got a job in Las Vegas, and that's how we ended up in Vegas.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
All from being tossed by a
But,
tornado.
yeah, almost got thrown there, but yeah.
Is there a little PTSD, when you see
No,
a tornado?
you wonder.
Severe storm, or you're like, hey, we got to take this seriously.
Not too bad. I get, since I've been in the Midwest, hey, let's go see it.
Yeah. Tornado sirens going off, everyone's on their deck. Where is it?
We don't get excited till the cows and sheep start flying by.
Right.
And so I've become a Midwestern now.
Yeah.
I've been here since '87. I love the Midwest.
Yeah.
I go back to Vegas now, and I'm there for a week, and I say, oh, get me out of here. It's too much. I can't.
Do you
Are
hit
you
the strip? Or
are you
do
visiting
local stuff? when you go back?
When I grew up, I never even gambled.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, we used to make fun of all the people losing all their money.
Yeah.
And as kids, we'd go to the casino and watch them. And it was hilarious, because you see an old lady, back then they had the big cups, and they'd have quarters and stuff. And you see these old ladies playing 5 machines at once, back and forth and back and forth. And if you stood too close to them, they'd yell at you.
Yeah.
This
my machine.
my luck, get away. And you sit there, they're dumping their money. And, but if you go to Vegas and you take in the shows and stuff, you can really take some good deals.
Oh, yeah.
But my brother, and my stepfather, were cops in Las Vegas. My brother retired not too long ago, 30-something years on. He'd been there a long time, but he'd drive me around. He says he had talked to people who said they came out on vacation, ended up homeless because they gambled everything away.
Oh my
and
God!
He'd spot them and sight them, on the streets, and he recognized them, and they told their story. And I said, "You kidding me?" He goes, "No, that happens a lot more than you'd think."
Well, that's why isn't that why the balconies are kind of. You can't open the doors.
That could be, yeah.
Because people are jumping off.
Yeah,
I think that was an issue.
It was. Well, I was there. Let's see. I left Vegas in '80. I left back, went to my junior college, came back, graduated UNLV back in '87. But I worked at Caesar's Palace for a while, back in '79, '80, and that's when, Caesar's Palace pool was a big deal.
Yep.
Everybody would want to, you see these shows would come, and I was supposed to be a lifeguard, but found out real quick.
Ladies.
It was the girls in the bikinis were the lifeguards. We were the pool attendants. We were supposed to be lifeguards, but we had to pick up all the drinks that had been 100-degree weather, and they stunk, and everyone put their cigarettes out. But that's had my brush with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, really?
Because that's when he was doing Conan the Barbarian. All of
He
huge.
was just jacked.
He was just enormous.
The late 70s,
and I was a weightlifter and everything. I did that, and so I'm leaning at. People would have to come up and show us their key. We take them up with a pad and some towels and make them feel important. Treat them right. Mm-hmm. They come all this way to Vegas, and that's what we do. And he comes, and I looked up, and I went, "Wow, that looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger."
Yeah.
And I looked back down, and I looked back up, and it was like, a cartoon where it is a putty cat.
Yeah.
I said, "That is Arnold Schwarzenegger." And I went, "Oh, wow." I said, "Okay, I'm not gonna." I just, kind of laying like this, and all of a sudden I felt this on my arm, and I looked up, and his accent was really strong then.
Sure.
He grabbed my arm, because we were in tank tops and stuff, and I was
down,
weightlifter and
get to the chopper.
He goes, "You have very good arms." And I went, "Oh," I said, "Well, thank you." I said, "Not like
That's a
yours."
compliment coming from him.
Yeah.
Holy
and
cow.
he goes, "Really now, why do you work out?" And I said, "Well," until we talked a little bit, and he was just dating his then wife, who's left him now, Shriver.
Yeah,
Remember
Maria,
Shriver?
yeah.
He was just dating her at that time, and she
Wow.
was trying to walk and not be noticed. So it was back in the 70s. She had those big old sunglasses and the big old hat, and she's trying to do this.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said, if you don't want to be noticed, go 2 feet that way, because everyone's looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so he came up, and he says, "Oh, could you?" I said, "Well, where do you want to sit?" He goes, "Oh, just take me where we won't get bothered." I said,
Yeah.
"Sure, no problem." I took him to the upper deck, and so it was great. He
That's
gave me a
cool.
little tip, and then he did something I never saw a star do, because lots of stars came through. He came in his Speedos, so he was huge.
Yeah,
Gosh.
of course.
He came down and circled the entire Caesar's Palace pool, taking pictures with people
Wow.
in his Speedo, so he was, and
Yeah.
everyone's jumping
Just
to take a
lifting
picture.
people up left
and,
and
his arm around one lady, holding the kids and smiling, and circled the whole pool, left, and nobody bothered him. Everyone thought, well, wasn't that great?
Just getting it out of
he
the
knew
way
how to
early.
treat people.
Yeah, yeah.
And not like other ones were like, keep the peasants away.
Sure.
He came down, so he knew how to treat people. That's probably how he made governor. He knew how to treat people, and that was one
He's
thing
a
I'd
very
never seen
likable
before.
guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
very.
So that was kind of my
That's cool.
growing up in Vegas, and then that's when I went into the Marine Corps. Saw they had openings, and one of our questions like, what made you want to go in the Marine Corps?
Yeah,
It's
well,
like,
of course.
I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and Top
Gun.
Gun.
Top Gun.
Yeah,
was
it's Top Gun. Of
Yeah,
course.
there you go.
Everybody wants to be
Yeah.
Maverick.
Danger zone.
Danger zone,
Yeah.
fly off that carrier.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. And so went in the Marine Corps. That was in '87. So went out to Quantico, Virginia for officer candidate school. Had to compete nationally to get a slot. Got there, was only there a month and a half, and I got medically disqualified. My wife came here. Her family had moved here from Salt Lake City, and we had 2 kids at the time. She moved here and was waiting for me, and here I get medically disqualified.
From
And,
being a fighter pilot.
Yeah, from being a firefighter, being in the Marine Corps, I couldn't stay there. And it turns out I have really bad flat feet, and which not necessarily were going to get you kicked out. But my feet were not only flat, my right one was also rolling in. So the tendons, and the doctors say, hey, you're eventually going to have to get this fixed, and it's going to be bad. And I go, okay, I've been a wrestler, I had no problems.
Sure.
And I ended up getting my foot completely reconstructed. They had to do tendon transplants, break bones, put screws, plates, all in my right foot. So it ended up but it lasted me for a while. I was out of work for like a year. I was light duty.
Wow.
For a year recovering. So that was not too long ago. So it lasted me for a few years. It lasted longer than they thought it would. But they said, yeah, we're not going to put $1 million worth of training into you just to snap your foot the first time you land too hard, during.
So they vet you pretty hard then.
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as medical
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah, you have to be, to be able to fly and stuff like that. You can't, be cross-eyed or
Yeah.
anything like that. It gets a little tricky landing on a carrier.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2 of
Oh,
them.
you
This
missed
shouldn't
it
be too
again.
hard.
Yeah.
Just pick one.
So no Top Gun for you then.
No, I came back, but it worked out fine. That's when I got back to Omaha. After that, I asked my wife, what do we do now? We had 2 kids now. I said, we were looking, and we ended up working for Boys Town. And we're there for about 10 years, from 87 to about 97, 99.
How'd you know about Boys Town?
I didn't know anything about Boys Town. My wife had been there, and we had met some people at church who worked at Boys Town as well, and so they told her about it. My wife said, hey, this sounds interesting, and the position was a house parent, you might call them. They're called family teachers at Boys Town.
Okay.
A lot different than a house parent, but it's and she told me about it. She says, well, you live in the house, and you have these teenagers live with you, and I'm sitting listening to this, and she goes, you want to try it? And I said, no.
That sounds terrible.
That sounds awful. Who wants to live with a bunch of kids, and
Yeah.
like that aren't my kids? And 10 years later, I was still doing it, but we ended up being there for quite a while. Enjoyed it. Had a lot of kids. We adopted 2 kids that we had there at Boys Town. We ended up adopting later. We started out with 2 kids and had a third while we were at Boys Town, and then later we started adopting, foster care, doing all that. We ended up with 9 kids. So
Holy
9
cow.
kids.
I'm pretty sure. My wife, I think, snuck a couple of them in. I don't know their names.
Yeah.
So 3 biological.
trying
3 biological,
And then
and the rest
adopted.
adopted, foster care. We brought in, the last 4 were Native American kids from the Omaha tribe.
Okay.
We couldn't adopt them. There's certain laws that you can't do that.
Tribal laws?
Tribal laws, yeah.
Okay.
And the equal laws. And so, we became their legal guardians, tried to help them out, and we ended up having we counted once, and it was around 50 kids that we've had.
That came
Through
through
our
your
house
or
at
whatever?
Boys Town, foster care. We tried to sit there and try and remember how many kids do we have. We'd go through pictures, and it was around 50. So,
That's
Yeah.
That's
So
so,
you had a-
awesome.
It is.
yeah, it
I'll tell
was,
you what,
yeah.
we've had a lot of guests on that made me feel real bad about myself, and you're doing that right now.
Oh,
'Cause
well,
I
you're
mean,
a fireman. You
that's
don't really
stand-
need much more than that. That'll.
Yeah.
Anyway, for those that
Well,
don't
that's
know,
so awesome. I mean-
firemen and cops have a love-hate relationship. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know that.
I guess I'm in the middle.
We love to
Yeah.
hate each other, and but if you pick on one, the other one's going to come to their aid.
That's-
We all know that.
That's
how
why you
it
got that
is.
boxing match.
yeah,
every year,
yeah,
right?
that boxing match.
Yeah.
Put it
That's
all on
just
the
them,
line.
Guns and hoses.
So 10 years at Boys Town.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? What was the family dynamic? Having your own family and then also doing.
Yeah, it was a little tricky. You have your own house within the house. You have your own apartment for the family teachers and their kids. So you're there during the day with the kids, and you're working on social skills and all things. It's very challenging. 'Cause
Yeah.
You get a lot of kids who had no structure at all, and we, as a result of all those years, when we did foster care, we did what at that time was called treatment foster care, and those are kids who've been severely abused. And if you were just the person trying to help, I want to help kids, I want to be a foster parent, but had no real training other than, hey, I just want to help.
Yeah.
You don't want to take kids who have been severely abused because you don't understand their issues.
Right.
You've been, I was raised, and had a great family, I want to help other kids. You want to try a different level.
Right.
Because if you get a kid that's been horribly abused or anything like that, and you walk in and they see me,
Yeah.
they're terrified.
Sure.
And we had issues as well as Native American kids. You go up to the Omaha tribe up there in Macy, Sioux City, and Native American hair, Indian hair is thick as can be, and Drano does nothing, by the way. It'll spit it right back at you.
Yeah.
And the littlest guy, I'll never forget this. I was sitting there, and he's sitting there looking at me like a confused dog. He keeps tilting his head, and I said, "What?" He says, "Where's your hair?" Because he'd never seen a bald man.
Yeah.
Because Native American hair, that's thick
Not an
hair up
issue
there,
for
yeah.
I lost it.
I said, and I explained to him, "No, I don't have hair." I tried to explain it best because he was like 4 or 5 at the time. And he sat there, he goes, he bows his head up and down. He goes, "Okay, but where is it?" And he just couldn't get it. So
Yeah.
eventually he got used to it. But when you were at Boys Town, though, we worked with girls. And so, and you had a lot of issues there that were different than boys, if there had been, kind of abuse and things like that.
Sure.
So it was very challenging because a lot of times you have young folks who their only way to get by in life was to manipulate.
Right.
They was either on the streets or whatever. They had to hustle for what they could get and what they could get from people, and so sometimes that's very difficult on a marriage. Like when you grew up, it was probably say if dad says no, ask mom.
Right.
Or okay, we get that same thing. It could be a whole another level.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're very masterful at getting people to pick at each other. And if you have a marriage where you're going, "Hey, what are you doing? What do you mean? What am I doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing?"
Yeah, right.
They're saying you did this, and they didn't like the way you talked to them, and you
Yeah.
get and they sit back and smile, because you're still
Just
working
a
on them,
game,
trying to
right,
get them
yeah.
to where they mature a little bit, and then they actually care about you. At first this is just another home.
Sure.
So there's no bonding. There's no, it's just all very, very guarded. And once we got through that, a lot of times the kids were great, and we ended up with our younger kids. We ended up being like the little kid house, because you had kids who grew up who never saw a Disney movie. Everything they watched was
crazy.
R-rated because
Yeah.
their family or whoever
Sure.
was there,
Yep.
meth family, and so they were stuck in that, and that's what they saw. We had kids that were upper teenagers who'd never seen anything from Disney, and so we.
It's hard to believe now. I mean,
Yeah,
so
you wouldn't
many
believe that if you didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
That's all I watch.
And if you think about it, that's very, as far as we would be concerned, a normal developmental, age-appropriate thing to learn to watch, whatever, Pinocchio,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the old Disney shows. Never seen it. All they saw was Terminator and violence and stuff. That's all they saw.
How do you untrain kids out of that? Make them unsee that.
It takes a while. But the kids we had, again, they started giving us, our house ended up being the little kid house. So we went from teenagers, and that was the other problem. You'd have teenagers, and then you'd have young kids in the same house.
Yeah.
And you had to be real careful. They were in criminal theories and stuff. There's a theory, it's called institutionalization. In other words, you put a little kid, a good kid in with a bunch of bad kids, the kid's going to become a bad kid.
Right, yep.
He's going to join in because he wants to be accepted.
Sure.
You have,
He
group
looks up to
mentality.
them and
Yeah, and we're all in the same house.
Yep.
And you don't want them giving you looks if you're not, being with them. So you had a lot of issues you had to be careful with. And if you didn't have the experience, you could have some real problems. But after doing that for years, we worked on it pretty good. Seeing how fun things are. And when I had little kids of my own and they were all excited to see a Disney movie, then I had teenagers would kind of look around and say, okay, let's watch that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
What's
they
this
got
all
to see it,
about? Yeah.
The Lion King or something like that.
Right.
So, it took a while breaking through. Once you did, a lot of times the kids, you could see how they started to really develop and to look past themselves a little bit. So it was, it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it. And it helped us later to do the foster care and stuff because we could take the kids who had been severely abused into our home and we knew how to take care of them.
Sure.
So
What's the ultimate goal for Boys Town to get these kids back into society, living a quote unquote normal life?
I haven't been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
But they put them they developed the teaching family system where it was almost like, a mother and a father in a home family system versus some of the institutional places that are in the United States at the time, and tried to develop as what they consider at that time as natural an environment you could have them in, a family setting. And that was there to help them re-socialize, learn acceptable social behaviors, and it just took a while.
Sure.
And a lot of the kids did real well, and a lot of kids left and bounced up and down because because a lot of times they'll leave after being at Boys Town for 2 years, and they said, well, that was just at Boys Town. Now that I'm adult, I can do, and they start thinking they can do the
Right.
hustling and stuff
Yeah.
again, and it just takes a while to realize, no, that don't work.
Yeah.
And then you hope they'll look back, and which is what you do as a family teacher or as a foster parent. You hope at one time, you got them through this to high school years where they
Right.
could have made some horrible decisions, and you hope, they're gonna go up and down. But you hope at one point they look back and they say, what was really solid in my life?
Yeah, what were the
Because
best
they're-
times?
Yes, and when was I really the happiest?
Yeah.
And I didn't have to worry about somebody jumping me or something like that. It was when I was with the family, and this is what they did. So, and hopefully they'll start saying, don't expect them to be great or anything like that, but they'll find their niche.
Yeah.
And if they have to learn the hard way a few times, you get arrested a few times, whatever. We get phone calls. Just recently got a phone call from one of our kids. That was one of our foster kids, and he called from jail.
Yeah. That's too bad.
So, but it's been a while since he's been in jail, so I
Yeah.
guess we're getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to measure it different ways.
Yeah.
So take what we can get.
With that being said, we're going to take a quick break.
Are you committing yourself to exercising in 2021? We can't help you keep your head out of the Cheetos bag, but we can help fix up your exercise equipment. Don't let your fitness equipment be the reason you don't hit your goals. Call Fitness Machine Technicians today. Fitness Machine Technicians repair and maintain all makes and models of fitness equipment. Some of our clients include hotels, apartments, gyms, corporate companies, assisted living, physical therapy, and let's not forget the homeowners. Fitness Machine Technicians keep your equipment fit to keep you fit. Give us a call at 402-871-4735.
We're back with the Brother Side podcast. We've been talking to Chris LeGrow. We were just discussing his time at Boys Town and the challenges of raising a family within the Boys Town dynamic. And what took you out of Boys Town? Why did you guys ultimately decide to leave?
I started getting older. I mean, I was I was about 37, 38, and I said, as my kids are getting older, they're going to have their needs, and it's going to be hard for us to balance our own children's needs with the needs of the kids who have been, abused and required a great deal of our time. And so I started looking into different things. I kind of wanted to be a police officer or be in some kind of law enforcement, Marine Corps, wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And like that, and applied with the FBI, made it to phase 2 testing, had to go down to Kansas City and do some things. And I think they were looking for people that could speak another language.
Gotcha.
So, if you can do that,
Yeah.
I could tell kids, if you could learn another language, do it. It
Yeah.
really helps. But
I wish I would have taken Spanish more seriously.
Spanish
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
yeah. So if you could, that'd be me. My phone could hear that. Sorry.
That's all right.
But I said, I got to look into something different at that point, and I got got in with the Omaha Police Department back in '99.
99.
And I was 38 among all these rookie cops.
Yeah.
We were all rookies, and the guys were like 21, 22
Sure.
years old. There was one guy older than me, and he was what we call a lateral. He was
Oh,
from
okay.
another police officer from Milwaukee. He going to ours, so he'd been a cop for a while. But I was the grandpa, and they started calling me grandpa, which didn't really fly at 38.
Yeah.
You're like, come on.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm 37
A-holes.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really
Now
wanna be
imagine being called grandpa.
Yeah.
And so I said, shut him up. I set the push-up record for the police department there, and
Which is?
I did 120 in a minute.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a couple of them
gosh.
didn't
Just
count. I
cranking.
didn't quite lock my elbows out, but
That's a ton of push-ups.
yeah,
in a minute.
I always did push-ups. So
Two
my
per
gut,
second.
My gut hit the ground before everybody else.
Yeah.
Did, I guess. The biggest competition was the firemen. I'm going to give them that credit. So we had two that were going through as arson investigators.
Oh,
And
okay. I was
so-
like, a firefighter want to be a police officer?
I know.
Doesn't usually work that way.
Yeah, I know. It usually takes a lot of brainwashing to
Yeah.
detoxify them
Yeah.
and get them
Too-
back to
it's
being
too
a
much work,
be a
yes.
normal human being. And so,
Yeah.
but so then I got on with the police department, and I worked all 4 areas of the city at the time. We just had the 4 precincts in Cruiser, made detective, and I was only up there about 4 years, and I've been a detective ever since because my body was just getting killed. I've had to have both my biceps reattached, back surgery, knee surgery, my foot completely reconstructed. So it's like, okay, too many things are crackling.
Yeah,
I
you're right.
better get off the streets and try and get in. And so I've worked, started out with the burglary unit. I worked North Investigations. I was the PIO, the Public Information Officer, the Crime Stoppers,
Yep.
stuff. I did that for a while. Then I was a midnight regional investigator, which is like the A shift detectives. They go out and the regular detectives work different, B shift and C shift, and did that for a while, and then I got called and I was asked to come out to domestic violence. I did that, and I've been on domestic violence in the Special Victims Unit for about a little over 10 years.
Does being on the streets sour you up a little bit on people just in general? Like, here.
It can.
Yeah,
It can. I majored in criminal justice, and one of the theories about that was it was called developing, they call it a working personality. That's when, now some people take it as racist or whatever, or it depends on where you work. If you get spit at or stuff thrown at you, or you turn your back and you see someone coming at you long enough, after a while, if you see guys who wear their shirt a certain way, real big to hide any weapons they're carrying, it could be a racial element in it. If it doesn't matter if you're a black cop or a white cop. This is what we'll do. You'll say, okay, watch this guy. I don't like the way he's walking. Now,
Right.
people will look at you and say, what do you mean just the way he's walking? I said, look,
I've done
if
this
you've
long
seen
enough.
this, I
Yeah.
see a certain walk. It looks like you walk a certain way when you have a gun here.
Yeah.
And those kind of things. So it could sour you if you don't. And the other thing is the authority, trying to make sure you keep things balanced. And that's what I tell a lot of young cops now. I tell them, look, do other things. I was involved. I was a scoutmaster. I worked Boy Scouts and my family. I didn't just do cop stuff, go to the bar afterwards, like you see
Yeah.
on TV,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hang out with the cops, do nothing but the cops softball league or the cop golf league. And their whole life is all in cops.
Yeah,
I said, you need to have
brainwashed,
balance.
Yeah,
And,
work-life balance.
because what happens eventually is you just start thinking everyone lies,
Yep.
Yeah.
and the only people who aren't lying are manipulating. Well, that kind of mindset is kind of hard to be married to.
Yeah.
All right.
Toxic. I mean, that's-
yeah, it can be toxic. So, whenever I get a chance to just talk to a new officer, I say, keep balance. Keep balance. I've been doing this for over 22 years now, and I'm telling you, I've seen so many. I said, don't fall for a pretty face. I
Yeah.
said, because we call them. I think the term they call it.
Pearson
They call
is
them
what I think, but-
badge bunnies. Is the term for women who throw themselves at cops.
Sure.
I'm sure firemen.
Helmet chasers.
There's some blind people
Helmet
who,
chasers.
Yeah.
some women with nearsightedness that will go after a fireman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Hey, we'll
He's
take
some major
We'll take
Yeah,
them
take
out
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll take the leftovers.
so
right?
those are just things that can affect you when you're on the streets like that, or when you're a police officer, that you really got to watch for, because it can really mess you up. And so marriages don't last long if your attitude is, I don't care, everyone's a liar, and
Can't trust anybody.
I only verify what I can see, because you can get that way real quick if that's all you do.
Right.
However, if you get out and you do other things, and you're talking with other people, just like I'm talking with you, my day is not just talking to people. My day is trying to figure out what happened to people I know are lying because their drugs were involved or something like that, so they're always being evasive. And your whole day is say, okay, now wait a minute, before you told me this, now you're saying this is actually what happened? Why didn't you say that originally? That's my conversation with people. If that's all you do, that's going to warp you.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
really will. And it will affect you. It'll affect your relationship with your family, extended family, friends. Because after a while, some cops think they just can't talk to people.
Sure.
They can
That
only
don't
talk to other
understand
cops.
where
They
you
don't
come
understand where we came from
Yeah,
and what we
yeah.
go through. And there's lots of issues like that people don't understand about being a cop.
I can't imagine being a cop today. I mean, everything, especially in this
Right,
last
so,
year.
yeah.
You
Hey,
guys
I'm
have
gonna
been
I'm
to
gonna
hell
put a
and
plug
back.
in. The Omaha government, the Omaha mayor and stuff. They were supportive of us.
Yeah.
And look where Omaha is now because they were supportive of us. Other cities that went through similar riots, same things, did not support it, and look what they're living with now.
Right.
It's rat nests of these groups that set up their own thing because they did not support the police, and as a result, the radicals took over, and they just stepped back. And our mayor, our city council, they stuck with us, and they were
Yeah.
supportive. The people were very supportive as well. I got no problem with protesting. We didn't, but a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know. Among these protesters that we had during all this time, we had the protesters, which were fine.
Yeah.
But you also had other groups. You had like 4 or 5 other groups in there. You had the agitators, the ones that just wanted to get there.
Poke
They're
the
taking
bear.
They
advantage
couldn't
of the
take advantage of the
situation.
situation. Hey, man,
Yeah.
we could break a window.
Yeah.
You had the groups like the Antifa and those four. And then you had those people who were setting things up. They were running behind them with walkie-talkies, directing, and telling people where to go. And I was in one of the arresting groups, and we'd be hauling them to the jail in groups. If you get arrested during a riot or during a protest, you did something pretty bad.
Yeah,
because
right, 'cause
a
there's
lot of
too
stuff was
much
being
going
let
on.
go.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And if you got arrested, you were doing
deserve
something.
it, yeah.
One guy had a Molotov cocktail, and was heading towards the police headquarters. But they were calling out, "Hey, this is the phone number to call for free bail." And sure enough, they were showing up, and they had wads of money, and they were bailing everybody out to let them go back and do it again. So in the future, if
pretty
if
organized.
anybody ever hears, I'd say if we ever get arrested during a riot, we need to make it so that there's no bail for at least 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a
Let
cooling
them
off period.
Cooling off,
Yeah.
because the guys who were doing like the agitators, they thought it was fun. They were just breaking windows and grabbing shoes or whatever if they
Yeah.
could. But if they knew, hey, someone's going to pay for this, I don't got to do it. I'm just having fun. And so that was challenging. It was hard.
I mean, you really have to have some tolerance. I mean, the level of disrespect, to
Yeah.
police officers, the spitting, the yelling in your face. I mean, the restraint. I don't know if I could do it. Honestly.
I know you could.
Someone's
Yeah,
right here
yeah, it's
just
hard.
spitting on me.
It's hard.
Yelling. There's no way.
Well, they don't get to do everything to us. But there's a line.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
that's when, like I said, if you end up getting arrested you probably did something pretty bad.
Yeah.
Because, you crossed our big line somewhere.
Right.
For us to stop doing what we're watching this big group and focus on
And
this individual.
The unfortunate part is like some of the protesting. I mean, it's peaceful. Like
Yeah.
a lot
That's
of
why I
those
said
people
you had
want,
the protesters.
want nothing to
and
do
they
with
weren't doing that. That was
Yeah.
the agitators and the other. People don't realize they'll put all the
everybody-
protesters together once say, oh, they're all protesters. No, they weren't.
Yeah.
There were legitimate protesters, which I have no problem with.
Sure.
And then it was the other groups that were there,
Yeah.
literally trying to organize and literally trying to get them to riot.
Yeah.
Push the buttons. Hey, there's a shoe store over here, and they'd send people over to bust out windows. They wouldn't go in; they'd go to the next door, and then they'd on the radio or their phones and say, "Hey, the windows are broken at this store," and that's what happened in other cities as well. So if you watch, it was organized.
Yeah.
Because why take the time to break out all the windows and then stand there and not go in?
Yeah.
They were calling out so that the people would run in and grab it and loot it, and they just run to the next store just to keep causing more
Havoc,
agitation,
yeah.
more
Anarchy.
problems. So it's a very complex dynamic. It was
Yeah.
not just what people think. Oh, they
Right.
were just all protesters doing this. No,
No.
it wasn't like that.
And it takes the focus off,
The cause.
the cause itself, and really shifts it to the all the negativity that's going on with the protests, and you lose sight of what they were trying to.
Yeah.
The message they were trying to convey.
The message got hijacked.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Do you think this opens the doors for more future protest issues?
It does if we don't discuss what was going on. If you don't literally say, like I just told you, most people don't realize. They would lump them all together. All those protesters were awful. No, a lot of them were just doing protests, and that was fine. It was some of the other things that were involved. Once you realize, oh, wait a minute, there was more, and a lot of their messages got hijacked because you had these radicals coming that weren't from Omaha.
Yeah, we're not even from here.
Oh, we arrested guys from Sioux City, all around here, and coming down just to do it because it's not their city.
Yeah, right?
You know, they're going to cut me loose because I live in another town. You know,
Right,
they're not going to sit there. I'm not coming back, and they know it. Yeah. Once you learn how to focus on issues, and I'm all for discussing the issues and developing a policing strategy from that. I'm all for that, and I think a lot of times people expect way too much of the police. Literally, we're expected to do everything from dogs barking to mass shootings.
Yeah.
And everything
wide
in
range,
between.
yeah.
Right.
And what people don't realize in Omaha is really a big, small town.
Yeah.
How many times have you been on I-80 or I-680, driving along and look over and saw someone you knew? Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Or if you went to the mall and you see 12 people you knew that day.
Yep.
You know, just walking around. Okay, New York is, you don't see that
doesn't-
very often. You know, you're not going to come across somebody you see all the time. So Omaha's a big, small town. And if I arrest a guy, I'll recognize his face. And this is, okay, now we're getting to what it's like to be a cop. But my wife has learned that if we walk into a restaurant and I say, nope, she's
You've
okay,
arrested
turn
somebody
around.
there.
Yeah.
I
Someone
arrest
in
the
there.
guy and he's going
Yeah.
to recognize me. So, like if I arrest, you, I would recognize your face. I say, okay, I remember this guy. I might not remember your name.
Would you remember what I did?
I remember what you
Probably
did.
depends on the
I arrested that guy over here. Oh yeah, and you'll remember that. And I might remember your name. But what I won't remember is your buddies behind you that were yelling, cussing,
Sure.
whatever. And they know me. They see my name and everything. So remember I said you go to the mall and you see 12 people you know? All right, now I go to the mall and there might be that guy I arrested. He might pop up, but it's all the guys behind him. They're gangbangers or whatever. And so a lot of families, cops have said, look, if somebody just yells out my name, LeGrow, because they won't know my first name. They just
Right.
remember it was LeGrow.
Yeah.
You keep walking straight, I'm going to go a different direction. So it doesn't look like we're together. When I'm at the mall with my kids, when they were little, I have to worry about guys watching and coming up looking. I'm not looking, so they go boom and kick my kid in the face and run out. You know, those things we got to worry about. It's not just us.
Did it ever happen?
Yeah, well, stuff has happened to my kids, like at school.
Sure.
Because we had arrested a kid for shoplifting, and he goes to the same school as one of my kids did.
Gotcha.
And so he tells all his friends, "Oh,
Your dad's an a-hole.
Ben's dad did this to me," and and my kids would have to put up with stuff as a result of that. So they get picked on just because I'm doing my job.
Right.
And the kid got caught. So so he's just mad. Well, see, you got to worry about not just stuff happening to me. Now I got to worry about stuff happening to my family, and now I got to worry about. I've been doing this I put people in prison now that are getting out, so I am almost always armed because I've had people come up. You got to worry about. It used to. I hate to jump around, but you used to just not put your phone number out. You had an unlisted number. And
Yeah.
people couldn't find out anything about you.
Right.
Well, those days are gone.
Long gone.
You can literally get out of prison from Lincoln, and within 2 hours be at my front door. If you knew just how to look up things on the computer.
Pretty
And
simple Google
your
searches.
name, like because I was on TV and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff on Google with my name as an author. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
So they could literally be at my front door from the prison within a couple hours. So those are things I got to worry about. And I literally did have a guy come up behind me once, and I hear, "Remember me?"
Oh, that's
and I
creepy.
went,
Yeah.
geez, I grabbed him, I put my hand, oh my God, I swung around on him, and his hands were up like this. He goes, "Sir, you changed my life." I went, I said, "Dude, I
lead
almost
with that?
ended your life.
Yeah.
What are you doing,
Couldn't lead with that one, huh?
Yeah. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Man, you were interviewing me, and you started chewing me out. How you were sick of young guys screwing up their lives and all this stuff." And I was
Just
so
went off
I
on
guess
him.
I really gave it to him.
Yeah.
And he goes, then you left for a while, and I started thinking about it. I said, "Man, I really do got to change." And he did. So I'm happy. And I'm really glad I didn't shoot him. Because that would have really, but literally those are things I have to worry about.
Yeah.
Hey, remember me,
Yeah.
and 1,000 things go through your head when you would think, remember me, oh, that may be someone from school.
Right.
Or somebody I worked with years ago. Okay, I think a whole different level.
Yeah.
Because
All
I
the
think
bad stuff.
somebody's coming,
Yeah.
he sees me and recognizes me. And I've been in stores when I had guys I'd arrested and have interrogated, and they do this. And what's the first thing they look to after they look to me? My family.
Yep.
Okay, now if you've never had that feeling of someone that you knew is a bad guy look at you and then look at your kids and family. You step over and you stand right and you look at, no, don't.
Right here.
You know, yeah, you look at me. You know, and it's experiences that people don't, they see, like you guys say, oh, to be a cop. And have some, there's a whole nother level because you also have a family and you live in the community. And again, Omaha's a big, small town. You come across a lot of people, you know, and I come across a lot of people I work with. And I don't always work with nice people.
Right.
So you come across those people, you always have to be guarded. And that's something a lot of people don't realize about police work. And I'm sure there could be some great studies done on the effect on families. Because, I mean, my kids, my girls, when they go on the dates, they always got pepper spray.
Yep.
and
Just a certain level of paranoia.
And a lot of times, and if the guy's a jerk, they walk around with my picture. You know, they show him, this is my dad.
Yeah.
And when my girls, when they would be leaving, I'd look at them and I'd go, you know, got your pepper spray? You know?
Yeah.
And just, you never know. And
Absolutely.
I got used to it, and that's how they were. So they had a hard time getting dates sometimes. I would say, look, I'm the nice one. This is their mother. You better be careful about it. You go treat her. And there's a little redhead Spitfire.
Yeah.
Sheila, great. I've been married 38 years. And we raised all these kids. And I said, she's the one you better watch out for.
Yeah.
the
I'm not
nice
the problem.
guy.
Yeah.
But again, I'm glad you asked this because, and I wish more people had a chance to hear what it's like to be a cop's family. It's a very different dynamic. People don't know.
You know, that's it. I mean, you being a police officer, me being a firefighter, I thought about that dynamic and you know, when people have an encounter with the police, usually it's because somebody did something bad.
Bad, yeah.
I had
And-
one Monday night.
Yeah.
Ran a stop sign.
Deserved it.
Yeah.
And,
He got me.
And then, but with us, a lot of times when they need us or, you know, they're in trouble. So it's just, that's why there's such a different outlook.
And that's
you know?
also why there's such issues between cops.
Right.
And you
You
guys
wanna
always say
be us.
everybody loves firemen and everybody hates the cops because when we come, it's usually something bad.
Somebody's
you
in
guys
trouble.
come with something that they need.
Right.
And so.
Doesn't mean
yeah.
every interaction we have is positive. 'cause-
Yes.
And usually that's, you know, people that we see all the time. But, you know, what I've learned over the years, the people we see a lot, you guys see 10 times as much.
Yeah, and we see people at their worst.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to see them then, and then there might be something else going on that they don't want you to know about, and then you get all the other issues. But being a cop has opened up a lot of things for me. I mean, while I was there was a kid at church. He had suffered terrible case, very rare cancer. Wasn't expected to live very long. Lost all his hair, and I kept looking. I said, "What can I do for things? You know, a kid like that, for kids like this." And I started a group called the Cancer Kid Cops, and I got all the bald cops I could grab, and we'd go to the hospital and visit all the bald
so
kids
awesome.
Oh, that's
and show them
sweet.
how cool it was to be bald.
Yeah.
You know, and we let them tap our heads and we show them how cool it was.
Yeah.
And
Everybody's
one
doing it.
female cop came and she goes and she talked to the kids and she go, you know, what treatment are you on? And he'd tell her, she goes, oh, me too. And she went, beep, and pulled off her hair.
Oh,
and
wow.
he goes, whoa, you know,
Yeah.
and he just told him it's cool to be a cop. And
You have
and
a purpose, Justin.
So, yeah. Well, you know, then we'd do our little spiel, you know, we'd make jokes. We'd say, you know, our pepper spray, you know, I said, you know, it's either an attitude adjuster or a food seasoner. Or, you know, and we'd talk about that and we'd say, and I'd always we'd handcuff the nurse. I say, hey, who's the last nurse to give you a shot? And they'd go, her.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, oh, come here. And we'd handcuff her and then we'd pretend we forgot the keys. And, you know, World Herald came out and did a great story on us, you know, showed
That's
the kids
awesome.
patting our heads and we tell them jokes. I say, what's bigger and uglier than the biggest, ugliest cop you ever saw? And I said, what? I said, fireman. And they go, no. I said, oh, yeah, they always walk around with their mask on. It's scary. So we'd always joke like that. And
He's throwing some serious
Hey,
shit.
oh,
at you.
it's
I get
coming
it.
back.
Yeah.
It's
envy.
always.
I thought you were
know
gonna
it's-
say
Oh, we get it
Chewbacca.
back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It comes this way, too.
I know it's envy, so I just let it be.
Yeah. I mean, we have names for them. They have names for us. They call us the Blue Canaries because if there's a big gas leak, we usually get there before they do. And if they see us all laying on the ground, they say, okay, back up. Because the Blue Canaries are all laying down and we'll get them when we can. And we call them hosers and we all got all kinds of names for each other. So it's a fun,
Well,
healthy little thing.
we got to talk about you being an author. We're
Yeah,
getting,
We
we're
got
getting
about 6 minutes
Yeah.
here.
Oh,
we
okay,
haven't
we're gonna
even
get to
touched
that. Good.
Yeah. All right. So you wrote a book called The Senile Squad.
Yeah.
What was your? I was hearing it's about police officers or retired police officers.
Yeah. Well,
How'd you get
question.
there?
Well, actually, I had the story in my head. When I first came on, we had cops from the 1960s that were still on. And you couldn't fool these guys. You know, pull pranks or something like that. They'd seen it all. and they didn't fall for anything. They'd look and say, yeah, cute little girl. And they'd, come back, slap you or something like that. And there was a bunch of them that were still on. They've been on 30 years. All they've ever known. I came on with a bunch of their sons. When their dads were, and now their sons are growing up and they're becoming cops. And I said, why? I talked to him, why is your dad still on? He's been on. The guy said, that's all he's ever known. He said, it's been that uniform is all he's ever known for 30 years. He loves it, eats it, drinks it. And I said, you get going, in these guys, and they could outstory you. They'd say things that you can't repeat.
One-uppers.
They'd make the cops in the room drop their mouths and go, what did he just say? What did that? And he'd tell some old story of when it was in the old days, And I thought, what would it be like if all these guys had their own retirement home? And I thought, how miserable would they make those nurses?
Yeah.
And what kind of stuff? And then I thought, what if, and I grew up, there's a show called Hogan's Heroes. And it was about a German Stalag 13, but the guys would sneak out, fight the Germans, and sneak back in. Well, in my book, I thought, what if we made it so that they could sneak out, fight crime, sneak back in, and act like they were senile, make it all appear one way, and it'd be something completely different. I love that kind of a genre. It looks like to everybody it's one way, but in actuality, it's a whole new dynamic that you have no clue is going on. So in the book, even the cops don't know because they can't tell them, and the hoods, the gangbangers, don't suspect a little old man walking up, and so that's how they get intelligence. They do things, and when you get reviews, that's the coolest thing. You get reviews in Goodreads and stuff, which is all over the world. When you have somebody on the other side of the world reading your book,
that's pretty cool.
and then saying,
awesome.
you can tell after a while because sometimes they don't get our humor.
Yeah.
Like even in England, and when they get it, unless they were younger and they grew up with American movies, they get our humor. But you'd hear stuff like, what a smashing idea. It's smashing. Yeah, that's that side of the pond. These old blokes do this, and they go on and talk about it. And I said, so it's really cool. I have people on the other side of the world. And then another one I always get is, finally, the world's not going to get saved by teenagers and their powers. These old guys like to throw their urine packs and save it up and get it rancid and throw it at guys and, hit people with their teeth, whatever thing they could utilize as that. So it started there. And then I talked to a friend of mine once, and this at the beginning of my book, one of the things I give as a little thank you, I said to my friend Pam, thank you. I told her the story because she had published a book too. I said, this is I got for a story, and she's looking at me and she's going like this, and she goes, start writing, because this is different. This is not. This is old guys with fighting crimes and trying to keep their dentures in, and they wear diapers, and they have to wear police shirts. They get this special place designed for them, and they call it therapeutic. It's designed like a 1950s police precinct, dial phones, fans, lights, and they get to wear their police shirts because that's all they did as they were young. But since it's a hospital, they're required to wear hospital gowns. So they walk around that way, and they get to, be like community advisors to, neighborhood watch groups and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it went. And so it started building from there. A couple of years, got it done because
You just started writing.
Yeah, because I'm not a writer.
Right.
And police write very succinct reports because just the facts,
energy.
just the facts.
Yeah.
You can start going off, then a lawyer or a court can say, well, what do you mean by all these different,
That makes
this
sense.
is what happened, this is what I observed, this is what the witnesses stated. Boom.
Yep.
And we go from there. Well, when I talked to people when I was writing this book, they said, she had worked with a couple other cops. She said, getting you cops to write is like pulling teeth. And so, what did it smell like? What did it look like? What was dripping sound? And they have to do that.
Create the experience.
To help you create something that people could visualize who weren't cops. And so Senile Squad came along, got finished, went out. The reviews have been off the scale. Just finished the second volume in the series because they keep saying, you got to make this a series. I said, well, I'd like to make some money because I'd like to retire.
Right.
I'd like to. And so the next book, we have old female cops joining the precinct. And this one being called the Senile Squad. The next book is going to be called the Broad Squad. The tough old broads from the day.
Old broads.
They've been called dames, chicks, babes, foxes, all this. But the ones you didn't mess with were the broads because they could chew it up and spit it right back at you. So that's where that came in. So in this book, we have that additional dynamic of old female cops in there as well. So I like it. I wasn't a writer, but with Boy Scouts and all that and all the kids I've had, I told stories.
Yeah.
And so it gets real tricky to tell a story to get it in writing. It took a long time to work on. So.
I bet. So was there a little bit of writer's block at time? Like, how do I transition from this?
Yeah. And then once you get it done, you go, Believe me, when you hit
just
the
get
end and
this
you
outta
go,
here.
Boom.
"Oh, I did it because my wife, I had the kids at home.
Sure.
I could only write at 2 in the morning because we had the one computer. You know, I had all these kids and the cops' salaries. My wife would get up 1, 2 in the morning, come to bed. You got to go to work in the morning. This
But you be on a
but
roll.
you're feeling
You
it.
just be
I'm
on
going.
a roll.
I'm
Yeah.
going. And then finally I went, the end, boom. And sure enough, I hear her behind me, come to bed. And I said, babe, I'm done. I finished it. I'm expecting. She goes, yeah, go to bed. She was so used to it.
She didn't see it as this profound moment
Yes,
like you
yes.
did.
And then you go through and you got to get it edited. And you realize so much stuff. Get rid of chapter 11. Get rid of you. It's my baby. You know.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot.
That'd be
challenging.
tough.
So.
One question I got. So a few of the main characters, Smitty, Tiny, Sarge, are these based on real people that you knew?
Yeah, well, actually, the Sarge
Yeah.
was based on the one guy that was been on for 30 years. That I
Okay.
talked to his friend. I said I had some pictures with him on my Facebook. People can go to senilesquad.com, Amazon. It's found there. In Facebook, I got a spot on there for Senile Squad, and there's a picture of me with this old guy next to me, and that was the Sarge.
That was Sarge. Okay.
There's-
I figured it was
Yeah,
based
it was
on
Sergeant
actual
Cardenas.
people.
It was George Cardenas. We called him Papa Jorge. He'd been around for so long. And it was just so cool to. I said,
grizzly old vet.
So I called him. I talked to his son because his son came on with me. I said,
Yeah.
hey, I just want you to tell your dad, since he finally did retire, they probably had to rip the uniform off of him. And he goes, he's loving his grandkids now. So he's kind of coming down
Sure.
off of that, being a cop. And I said, well, tell him I put his story a little bit. He was a kind of inspiration for the old Sarge that runs the whole place. So that's where that came from.
Gotcha.
And,
Well,
some of those other guys.
I figured your main characters were probably based on people that you knew.
Yeah,
You know,
some of the
it makes
things
it probably
experience
easier
I've
to
had.
write because you're basing it on things you actually know.
Yeah.
But with that, we got to wrap it up. Chris, we really thank
Oh,
you
thank
for,
you.
for
It's been
being
great
on.
talking
Appreciate
to you
it.
guys. This
Yeah.
is really nice.
Yes. Very
Check out
informative.
and buy Chris's book on Amazon, Senile Squad. Also, check out his Facebook page,
Yeah, senilesquad.com.
senilesquad.com. And he's got another book in the works here. So
Yeah, it should be out in the next month or so.
We'll be looking for it.
The
Thanks
Broad
again.
Squad. Yeah.
Thanks,
guys.
Chris.
It's been
Yep.
great.
Thanks. All right.